Today on Smackey's Garage, we're going to talk about some of the changes that I made to this car and why it's running so much better than it has been in the past, and we're going to take it for a drive while we do that. Now, one of the first big changes that you're probably going to see is the car starts so much better. So I've made a change to the carburetor on this that's made the car perform significantly better. It's much nicer to drive and it's so much easier to start up. And we're going to go ahead, we'll start it up and then we'll talk about it. For the past year and a half, I've been running a brawler carburetor, and while I've liked it and it's performed well, the starting performance of not having a choke just isn't acceptable to me. From the view of someone that lives in New England where the weather's cold in the morning, 38 degrees, and then it's 50 to 60 degrees in the afternoon because it's fall, it's really hard to run that without a choke. Now, what I did is I actually went back to my previous carburetor and I cleaned everything up. I set it back to stock. I put the manual choke back on there and the car starts so much better, so much easier. So let's go ahead, let's start it up, get ready for the drive. All right, it's fall out. Us car guys finally get to enjoy our cars a little bit more. I don't run the air conditioning in my car, so in the fall, I finally get to enjoy the nice weather and take it for a cruise without overheating. Not the car, but myself. It's always a good day when I get to drive this car. So as you heard, it's definitely a lot easier to start than it was before. One of the reasons why is because I decided to go back to my old carburetor and I went to a manual choke. In New England, I'm struggling a little bit to have a choke that is completely automatic, and I'm struggling a little bit to not run a choke because of the temperature swings. So I'm going to go ahead and keep running this manual choke. All right, here we go. I've gotten the power steering to the point where it's driving a lot better and it's steering a lot better. Still makes a little bit of noise when I start up in the morning, but that's okay. You might remember last year we spent some time working on the power steering. It made it run a lot better. It's a lot cleaner now. It does perform a lot better. I still probably need to get a little bit more fluid in it, just because I do notice after long drives and when it warms up, there's definitely a little bit more hiccuping with it, but it's not too bad of an issue. Now going back to running this older Holly, so I'm running the blue carburetor pictured here. I've been running this one for this entire year, and I tell you, I do really prefer this than the one that I was previously running, just from the standpoint that it runs so much better. It handles the temperatures easier, and just being able to start the car and not have to worry about waking up all my neighbors all the time is good, and it's nice. So that's definitely been a worthwhile change. Now, one of the other main things I did to the car is I've been trying to fix a lot of the issues that I've had with kind of the small problems. I think in one of my earlier videos, I spent a lot of time talking about my plan was to enjoy this car this summer, which I really did. I spent a lot more time driving it and doing projects that took it down so I couldn't drive it. So one of the biggest projects that I did was the export bar, strut tower bar that goes from each one of the different shock towers back to the firewall, and that's been great. I really like the way that it's set up. It's nice, but realizing that I need to make some modifications and make some custom parts if I want to run that, and I do want to run the coilover. It's a little busy out here, but it's a nice fall day. It's just afternoon. Haven't seen too many old cars, but there's definitely a lot of people out enjoying their nice cars. Now, one of the things I noticed when going to the new carburetor, it's not hiccuping anymore. It's tuned a lot better than it was previously. And I went back pretty close to the original tune or to the stock tune for this car, or for the carburetor, and it's worked out pretty well for me. I just love having big block power under the hood. It's nice, it's very torquey. It's fun to drive. One of the other mods that I did to the car to really refine it and make it better this year is, I spent a lot of time making this custom gauge mount, and I do have a custom gauge cup on it right now. I did create a website, and that's where this is now located. I wasn't happy with running just the hose clamp that I was running before. It just didn't look good. It didn't look finished, and it looked it looked unfinished. That's a good way to put it. And with it looking unfinished, it's not the way that I wanted it. So I made these special pieces that it actually fits the Autometer 2204 and it fits the Autometer 5204, I believe. And that's the 2 1/16 and I think 3 3/8 gauge cups. And you can run them on the steering column of your Mustang. The part specific to the 1969 Mustang or any of the steering wheels that do have that protrusion in the bottom. So if you do want one of those, they are linked in the description or they are on my website. Go ahead and check them out. But I'm really happy with the way that it came out, and it's been holding up really well. Now, a lot of projects for this car for this winter. I'm going to try to accomplish what I didn't accomplish this summer. Since the car is going to be off the road, I can spend a lot more time fixing it. It is the right time to do it. One of the nice things about driving these cars in the cooler weather is you don't really need to worry about overheating as much, which is great. The other thing is, for someone like me that doesn't run heat, that doesn't run air conditioning, I did have heat before, but I never had the air conditioner in the car. It's nice because you can actually just put on a sweatshirt, go for a cruise, not have to worry about the temperature at all. But you do get a lot of nice engine heat from these cars, let me tell you. I think the long tube headers really help in that aspect of it. Bring the heat right up to the floor down here. Now the other thing about these cars is you get a lot of tension when you drive them. There really aren't that many cars out on the road from the 60s that you see anymore. On the drive that I took just now, I saw one, and that's pretty much it. One of the things I do want to do a little bit more next year is try to get into doing some more cruising with the car because, with the nice weather and everything and the car running well, I think it's the best time to use it. Hopefully I don't have to wait until fall, just when it cools off too much, but the weather is nice right now. One of the things I like about this car is it's not really a corner carver. It's not meant for that. It's meant for just going straight, going fast. Even with these old cars, you do feel like you're going a lot faster than you probably are, just because it's so much louder, it's so much more of an experience than the new cars. Now I have a newer Shelby, a 2013. I prefer to drive this because, it drives really nice. It's much funner to drive slow, if you know what I mean. I'm only bringing it up to 2,500 RPM, and it still sounds really good. Just driving this car puts a smile on my face. It's really nice to enjoy it. It's fun to drive. No, it's more fun to drive a slow car fast than it is a fast car slow. The sad thing about this is probably the last drive of this car for myself for this year. It's been a fun season getting to enjoy it, getting to drive it, but the year's coming into an end. We're gonna start getting snow, we're gonna start getting salt on the roads, and as fun as it is to drive, it's just as fun for me to work on it. Now the last thing that I did to this car this year, not really something big, but I put on a battery tender and I actually wired it to the battery so that I can leave the car plugged in at all times. There's no real need to do that. It keeps the clock going on the dash because it's completely mechanical with a solenoid, but having that battery tender, keeping it charged is good, but it's not something that's really needed. One of the things that I do like about these cars is, you end up smelling like old car at the end of when you drive it. And for those of you that have old cars, you know the smell that I'm talking about. It's a nice smell. It's a mixture of gas, exhaust. I can almost bet you $50 that when I get home, my wife's first words are going to be like, "You smell like your car." The other nice thing is the number of thumbs up that you get when you're out driving your old car. There's a nice sense of community with these cars, so it's something else really to build onto. Now, something else I did to the car this year is I got a lot of the stuff ironed out in the dash. The dash is finally well secured now. Even though I had to take it out a few times, I went through there, made sure all the wiring was set. I spent a lot of time fixing that up. So I'm really happy with the way that it's turning out. Definitely a lot less rattling up front. Still have some work to do in the rear to get rid of the rattling, but the front feels pretty good. You know, one of the issues that I do have with this car is if you want to drive it for a long period of time, it is really loud. I don't know how well it's picking up on the mic, but you know, it's just really loud, and you end up kind of hard of hearing after a long drive. My Apple Watch will tell me not to spend more than 30 minutes in the car, but I mean, this is how I grew up, driving loud cars, driving fast, having fun with them. So it's something, it's nostalgic. I still love doing it. But if I'm going to be taking any long road trips, the car needs to be made a little bit quieter. But the engine's run good ever since I've built it. You know, I'm still seeing 50 psi at 2,000 RPM. I'm holding steady at 180 degrees for temperature, so everything's working as it's supposed to. On the hot days, it does get a little too hot in here, and the engine does start getting a little, I'd say, overheating. But today, it's the perfect New England day. All right, let's go ahead and take the car home. You know, it is sad that I'm putting the car away for the last time this year, and this is probably my last drive. But, you know, every single time I drive it, it brings a smile to my face. And that's really what these old cars are made for. You know, if you don't have one, you haven't experienced it yourself, find someone that'll take you for a drive or get one yourself. Thanks for tuning in to Smackey's Garage. I'll see you for all the winter projects. That's it.